I'm gonna make another video just to talk just for the sake of talking, but this is my new Casio watch. And I'll tell you why I bought this, because I had two other working watches. I had this Timex Easy Reader. It says WR30M, it doesn't say a model number. And then this Casio watch, both of these are meant for a man. And this Casio says MTP V006. MTP-V006. It says it's water resistant. It doesn't say how much water resistance, which doesn't mean you can submerge a watch under a certain depth of water. Both of these Timex and the Casio have the day and the date. The Timex looks like a nice watch for the price. It's a good watch. It's only was less than $38 total, maybe including tax. I bought it at Walmart. It's got the Arabic numerals, it's got the day and date, and it's got the Indiglo. You push the crown and it lights up. It ticks too loud. That's why I'm dissatisfied with it. I used it for a year and then got tired of it. And I bought two other watches and I messed them up. I broke the watches because I bumped my hand into a box at work, and I bumped my hand into a door frame at my parents' house, and the crowns broke off. This watch doesn't work. This is a fossil. And I forgot with another one. Here, this watch doesn't work either. And it's a shame because the batteries are getting wasted. And I paid $15 to get a new battery in this fossil watch, and then like 3 weeks later it broke the crown off. So I'm dissatisfied with the Timex because it ticks too loud, but I'll just keep it as a spare watch in case I break whatever I'm currently using. This is almost a good watch. The Timex is about 35 millimeters across, and that looks like about a decent size, maybe even bigger than necessary, but it's acceptable size. Almost no men's watches are less than 38 millimeters, or at least since sometime in the 1990s. Almost no men's watches have been made that are less than about 35 millimeters. This Casio is 38. But then you have to factor in the lugs, those little projections that the strap attaches to. And then also, this has minute markers, and then between the minute markers there's extra lines. And I have no clue why there's extra lines between the minute markers, and I don't want to risk focusing on the lines and messing my eyes up. But the main thing wrong with this Casio is that it's bigger than I would prefer. My wrist tolerates the size, but I don't necessarily perceive that the watch has to fill up the entire area on my wrist. The strap is wearing out. See where the thin layer of plastic broke off or wore off the felt? So rather than buy a new strap, I bought a whole new watch. And see this Casio, this other Casio is a woman's model. And they make, I saw a man's watch, a Casio man's watch that was almost exactly the same as this watch, but it was 41.5 millimeters across, and this is 33, and this looks big enough on me. And both Casio and Timex and maybe other brands of watches have men's watches and they have women's watches that look almost exactly the same as the men's watches, except that the women's models are smaller and the straps maybe are skinnier. Maybe the straps are shorter, but a man using a woman's watch is obviously not like wearing an article of clothing that's meant for somebody who's anatomically the opposite gender. Like, I wouldn't buy a pair of women's anything, like women's clothing, but a watch isn't like women's clothing. Whether it's labeled as women's or men's is just marketing vocabulary. And maybe people think a man has to have a big watch and a woman has to have a small watch. See, this doesn't look bad on my wrist. It doesn't take up all the space. This watch, if you put it on here on my wrist, yeah, it looks like it fits too. It looks like, yeah, it may fit okay, but it still, it seems like it's bigger than necessary, but I didn't think I had a choice in the size until I realized that some women's watches look almost the same as the men's models. And there's nothing feminine about this new Casio that I bought. There's no pink in it. Not that a man can't wear pink, but usually I think of pink as a feminine color. There's no jewels on the watch. Not that a man can't wear a watch that has jewels on it, but there's none of that on this watch. It really doesn't look feminine except the size. I'm only 5'2" and a half inches tall. My wrist doesn't necessarily look small, but maybe it's proportionate to my body size. I'm a small man. My wrist measures exactly 6.5 inches around. That is near the low end of the range of men's wrist sizes. I don't really know for sure how big women's wrists are, but the 38 looks almost too big. I mean, yeah, it does fit on my wrist, but I just don't perceive that a watch has to fill up the entire space on my wrist. And there were some blogs that I read that gave me permission to buy a woman's watch, but even though it's labeled as women's, it's not, doesn't look feminine in any way. So whether it's man's or woman's is just marketing vocabulary. So we'll see how long I can keep this watch intact. Now you'll see that it's got these little pieces of metal around the crown, so maybe that will inhibit the crown from breaking off in case I bump my hand into something. And the strap is about 16 millimeters across instead of about 18 on the Timex or 20 on the other Casio I have. And also there's only minute markers on this new Casio. There's no little lines between the minute markers. Unfortunately, the new Casio does not say the day of the week. I know logically I don't need a watch to say the day for me to be able to keep track of the day. And it's got little pieces of something on the hands that are supposed to glow in the dark, not like the other two watches. And this new Casio says it's water resist 50M. I don't know why they can't just say feet. That would be like 165 feet. Not that you can submerge the water in that much water. So we'll see how long I can keep this new Casio intact without it getting scratched like the other watches. The other watches have scratches on the surface. It's my fault. I'm careless with watches. It would be nice if maybe I could make this be the last watch I ever own, because maybe I want to think I'll just be really careful with this watch. Wasn't originally intending to collect watches. Right, that's about all. You can tell me any comments.